his debut volume, The Blood of Our Silence, which is a book that's very dear to me because it has had a big influence on the tonal quality of the poetry has influenced my own. Yeah. Um, so I'd like to read the title poem, The Blood of Our Silence. Everyone uses words these days as a flag to stuff inside the abscess of their skin, a medal. Without seeds to scatter, without love, lips gape apart as overripe fruit, cavernous, still air of mouths opening and shutting, opening and shutting. Then bullets speak like the wind. In the hatreds of us, between us, in a history made malignant in the heart, where I seek you, seeking a lost harmony of tongues, avoiding my eyes, our bones creak towards the choir of their massacre. It is surely time to throw away the icons of memory, to paint the flags red again, not with blood, but with the laughter of a new surreal dawn. Throw away the crayons of rhetoric. In this country where I die alone with everyone, a voice still comes to me, whispering a world of riotous mingling colors I can no longer imagine. The murmur in your veins, the weight between my legs, the brave, dumb, despairing, uttered polychrome of our people, the blood of our silence. Calvin Soul. So I'll start off with a few newer, you know, I won't bore you with the details of my struggles with writing, but I'll start off with a few new poems just to say I've kind of hooked up with a few poets here in a very small town in New Zealand, and we meet regularly, read stuff to each other, discuss, critique the poetry, like a workshop kind of vibe to it. And it's been good and a little bit inspirational. So I'll start off with a few new poems, then go into stuff from the archive, and then read earlier poems as well that have a thematic kind of connection. The first poem is called A Short Prayer. Come to me in lines, even if faithless, from windows onto another's land. O stanza of verse, paragraph of prose. Come to me in the late afternoon, even with the instant burnish of romance. Come to me at twilight, in cold quiet, even if with the fictive eye of some inner exile, tempered in the grey steel lines of that lost art of last century's emigre, stood on the edge of an overgrown burn. While gone now from their mind, the moraine of it all, manicured in hope, where the children played with broken sunblood glass, like artifacts from an unknown planet, in lone orbit in the heart. The next poem is called That Ordinary Thing. So far it has two parts, but it's another kind of work in progress. That ordinary thing. I sit nothing doing for days, listening to the rustle softly through the vegetation under the low branches of avocado trees. The scratching moves closer, louder, louder even than the gauze of bird sound, of song and chirp and plaint over the day, and find shape in the lowering light of late, late afternoon. The neighbors' four chooks free roaming. They spot me and scuttle in their chicken line when they cross open grass, our mutual field of vision, a sort of no man's land. They disappear from sight to grub at the compost heap. the extraordinary ordinary. Two paper wasps at the cherry blossoms, clumps of marigold and nasturtium bursting into a million yolks. Here come the hens again. Three black laced gold Wyandottes and a tawny former stray, now well part of the company, running the gauntlet past my post to patrol the line east. Everywhere is bird, and the first cicada of summer. Further away, the groaning of some mechanical beast, its steel on stone graunching the grounds of settlement. I too scratch at mulch, nudge with my toe at some long dead insect, but turn for now from the chimes that may set my darkness echoing. Part 2. Now, as the sun draws water in the late afternoon, comes into my sight a small and dark sudden hare, grazing in silence, or a flicker under leaf and sun, it is a bird squat down as if set in a temple. It moves, then is still, upright for a moment, gnawing at a sprig, its small body, I think, its wild heartbeat, the dark air at the edge of the field. I stare until my sight dulls, blurs, aches, the hair, a shade taken by shadow, enraptured there beyond my knowing. The following poem is is an experiment. It's called Making Ashberries. I don't know, but it's the real sound of memory to go home because I think I'm eating shoes. If you have questions, let me answer. More and more, I will do it for you. I'm making Cape Town's feelings in September. First, add water. This is the same for any month. What's different is that you use the same things first. Add water and you will feel you eating shoes. September thought is harder, which is reconciliation. Well, people are better. But if you like cats, it's a soft image. Now, let's make arrowroot characters, pictograms. When 1 minute will be after 1 minute, I want to talk a little in that minute. It is a story that becomes a transparent ball. But in the first place, it is a full text, only this good, with the same features in the preamble. I bought this scientific phenomenon called the state, and it was in the law and the bottom of the opening. That's why the lizard sucked the water and a lot of water flowed into me. Let's continue to be good in September. If you like it, don't say it. Is it perfect? The orbital ship is delicious, but you can't have a long, transparent child. That is why you should try a diet. It's a frame that has turned white. It's also an experience. If you eat it, it's just a taste of shoes. The first bite is the most delicious. There is nothing more than the number. You are in the state now. It's just like material. I did nothing in particular. So I'd like you to respond only to that assumption. I can't pen it. Let's have delicious food. Aiming at drama, it does not mean that you have a track record. Thanks, Carlton. Self-portrait in Crow. Again, Mingus at full stomp behind me, somewhere moaning, O Lord. Moaning, moaning out loud, O Lord. Me, myself, the burning eye in the kitchen in my mind, hands spread over spices smoothed down for roasting. I'm a piano man burning in the mind. And I time it without time, just short of 3 minutes on a clock, frozen somewhere I've forgotten to look. And for that flash of the eternal, I swear, for that flush, believe me, that flush of no time, when I am people of people, orang-orang and watu, when I am Batu, Vanu, Abantu, floating free for minutes from that crow squat on my shoulders, claws hooked into my trapezius, beak in my neck, drilling down to the medulla, retching, regurgitating the food of the gods, the emesis of power, the poisons of nation and race. The next one, a little bit shorter, The Snake of Sentiment. Bitten by history, fang marks unfaded and forever not fading, the blood acrid with toxins, the poison both of belonging and not belonging, the mad ring in the ears, too loud the bones, the heart of stone. Forgive us, the old men caught in a dream of the past, like children clambering over rock, up a ledge while behind us we let it burn, the valleys of the world. The following poem was published at the Johannesburg Review of Books. The title is TLDR, Waving Drowning. People will recognize the abbreviation TL semicolon DR as Too Long Didn't Read. And it has an epigraph from Derek Walcott. The epigraph read, "But that's all them bastards have left us, words." I find no palliatives in the soothsayers, and no solace from poets who melt their own pages, words, auto-scorching words, and neither also from the scientists who turn away lost in sonnets, quietly enumerating the instantaneously transitory everlasting in an apple pip, a speaking rock, my own slant of winter sun frozen on dry leaf. Words. We make more words, and words, and words, more words, words shaped more beautifully by the change of this word to that one, but still more words, always only, ever only words. The rhythm fine, a rhyme may be slanted, words and more words, words drowning unseen, unheard among the yet still multiplying words. Um, Again, something a bit experimental. This poem is called Moedertang, tongue spelled T-A-N-G as in pliers. Um, and it has a curious epigraph from Tertius, whom some of us may remember from high school, high school poetry, Afrikaans classes. The epigraph is: Die krywawiel se skreeugeluid kerm hy droefgeestig uit, terwyl die skemering vinnig daal, die tarrentaal. Hy soek, en dit is ook al laat, vir hom 'n kameraad om in 'n boom die eensaamheid en nag te sluit. Tertius, part 1. Moedertang, part 1. We sit and talk, two old friends aging, joking about aging as the sun goes down across the road, and some guinea fowl rise, screeching slowly up into a nesting conifer. Friends not seen for months, a year, 2 years, years of disease and death, of people near and distant dying. We two sit and talk that language of our blood this time once again. Words found and made, reformed, and found again rollicking, remade in the mouth. In that old moment in the wind, where fine time we two old friends, the screech of two old wheelbarrows, maudlin grey between love and scorn. Die krywawiel se skreeugeluid kerm ons droefgeestig uit. Part 2. Who are you, you who grew up into a language as it itself grew in you until you were and always was also it, the body making love and it returning love, a language fucking you. Until tongue fucking loop en naai julle mekaar tot al twee sopnat is. Who are you to make claim at all to how it was and is and should be understood, the love child of tongue and word, the heterodox, and also too and always all the tradition of your rural mouth, your semi-rural, peri-urban, bouillon mouth. Ja, op my tong val dit anders. Diep gelek van armpit tot lies, vars, soet soos wei, die oorskulp lobbe langs die tong se binne krulletjies, in die hart van die oor, die nek se holte, skouerblad, sleutelbeen, bors en ribbekas, die tong se val binne in sy groef van leed en wit en donker, die breitenboggel en die wonderbom, wat uit die tong se stoet nog hier kom staan en blom. Part 3. Nog eenmaal wil ek in die skemeraand weer by jou lê en in jou kom tong staan, weer met my lek op in jou donker skiet en lê luister, en al word ek teer en dof, hoe jou klein klippie 'n lekstrik van jou lies met tong teen tong hier teen my tongklap plof. Still a work in progress. So I'll read 3 more pieces, 4 more pieces, if that's okay.
That's great, Rustum. Thank you.
Thanks, Edward. So this poem, was written in the mid-1990s, 1996. I don't normally explain my poems, but this poem, it's called Cape Town, Jerusalem. Many of you will know the poem. And it was written, after an argument with a housemate. I was living with someone, and we had an argument about Palestine because we had just heard that Eduard Said had been diagnosed with cancer. And I was reading After the Last Sky and some other Eduard Said stuff, The Question of Palestine or something. And I had this argument with my housemate, who at the end of this argument, when the argument actually just blew up, was when he said that that if it comes down to the line, he would go to Israel and join the IDF. And it was the first time in my life that I learned that South African citizens could do that. If you were a South African citizen and you were of Jewish descent, you could go to Israel and join the IDF, and many people did that. And this poem started out, that idea, that fact that I learned, it was unbelievable to me. And then I started this poem it started as a letter to Eduard Said, a poetic letter, because, in my very limited reading of the history around Israel and Palestine, Eduard Said, what was difficult for me to grasp was how someone like Eduard Said could remain rational and almost dispassionate in his writing about Israel. But then the poem changed into something else, because it also, this is the mid-1996, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, 1997, South Africa, Cape Town, and Palestine, Israel, and Jerusalem as kind of, because of the symbolism around Jerusalem and how, for many people, any big city could have similar symbolisms in its attraction, its center of power, etc. So there are, there's a context behind this poem, and in the poem, the parallels are kind of oblique and very subtle, but it's a play on how Cape Town may be like Jerusalem in the way it attracts people, um, and the whole discourse around it as being the mother city, etc. But then also still the very strong undercurrent of apartheid in Cape Town, in South Africa, etc. Um, you know, I, I don't think that explains the poem fully, but some of that context, it started out as a letter to Edward Said, and it changed into this internal rumination, really, about Cape Town with the shadow of Palestine behind it. The epigraph is from Edward Said. Being on the inside is a privilege that is an affliction, because our interior is always occupied and interrupted by others. We have developed a technique of speaking through the given, expressing things obliquely and so mysteriously as to puzzle even ourselves. I just want to add, before I read the poem proper, that in the book After the Last Sky, photographs of people and surroundings and domestic spaces, I mean, that reminded me so much of, my own neighborhoods, um, a similarity to the faces and the mannerisms of people were unbelievable. So it was, that's in the background. Cape Town, Jerusalem. Often now I turn away from things, from jubilance save that which from a quiet word may grant my moment's wealth. A hometown's olive orchard that shivers in dusklight, the pit-pat as fruit fall free to the ground, or the homeless manic's quiet rage at grace when a shop owner hands him coffee. Most of all, I walk, so I may reach home and try to know myself, so I may turn to work. And turn more from the racial rage I need still in myself, as I turn from the stone's articulate act and seek the sentence long enough to house my tribe, even as I know of neither's existence. These are rages which won't stall, which needs thought. But thought fans flames, and action in killing them kills the word. Yet in my silence there is this rage, still this rage. So I turn away from things and read, dip into books, wait thus for reports from my race, choose not speech, but sit in my silence which broods to myself, a self at least, and wait, more thinking not of exile from, whether inside or out, but exile through. How the how inside the very head the tongue is exiled through itself, the tongue its own exile. And I turn more away from things, preferring solitude and work, to tongue at stories from their silent insides, like an orphan who in a new house senses an old taste, and quietly mulls us a morsel that brings memory darting like a wasp in the head, then withdraws his tongue from probing, back to the mute bed, the civilizing cradle of the jaw. The following poem is called The Wind in the Morning. The man wakes from dream to nightmare, his night-aged knees buckling over rubble outside when he emerges from the black mouth of his house. its burnt shell a meagre shelter from the wind, now tugging at a loose something, and the blight it brings like a scythe through the valleys. Let the sun rise if it must, let it burn through the wind, let it dry them eventual white and broken as the earth, his neighbours, the two lovers, charred in copulation on the blackened bed, as if they unleashed the starbursts of the bombs, that burning out their love. What's left are the wind-worn harvests, the neighbours' ache, friends' unanswered calls, a mother who cries, who wanders until death among the millions of the unconsoled. We who also wake, but turn away cowed, unshamed, we whisper only to each other of the murdered and the maimed. Single, multiple, mass, the killing fields, the index of our regress, back from Auschwitz-Birkenau. The next piece I'd like to read, plays on, we all know the song, The Greatest Love of All, which was written by Michael Wasser and Linda Creed. And the epigraph is, probably the finest verse from that song. And it's, I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us how we used to be. I mean, I think there would probably be a split in the audience that people love the Whitney Houston version, but I personally prefer the George Benson version from his live album. And then there's another epigraph from T.S. Eliot's Gerontian, which is simply, after such knowledge, what forgiveness? The children have no legs, the children. The children have no feet, they have no ankles. The children, they have no toes. The children have no arms. The children have no hands, no elbows. How do they wash their hands when they must come in and eat? The children lie under the rubble without fingers. Under the collapsed buildings, the children, they have no fingernails. No fingernails that need cleaning, need clipping. The children, they have no shoulders. They have no shoulder blades. The children have no knees, no shins, nowhere to put some lotion. No lotion on their cheeks peeled open. The children's milk teeth glisten through the big holes in their cheeks. The children have their spleens burst open. The children's skulls are cracked, torn apart, bone blown open. The children have no eyes. The children are torn apart, small torsos shorn from their waists and legs. The small torsos lie here, the legs without feet lie meters over there. The children's brains lie in the open, crusted with sand, covered in flies. The flies land on the children's drying brains. The children are a stain of blood, small bodies smudged in sand and tar by something heavy, what we cannot say. The children, each and every one, have holes through the heart, through the head. We cannot say by what, by whom, we cannot, do not speak. It is a mystery that deepens every week. Every month the children die. We pray to all our gods, let the children go. We think of them, we cannot think of them, the children. The children look at us and say nothing. The children do not go forth, nor do they come back. They are dead. They are silent. They are dead, the children. The last piece I'd like to read is, is part of an ongoing, I don't want to call it a prose poem, but it's pieces of prose, like prose passages. And it's part of an ongoing series that is called When I Write, a despair in progress. Again, an epigraph, this time from Theodore Adorno. And the epigraph reads, "The statement that it is not possible to write poetry after Auschwitz does not hold absolutely, but it is certain that after Auschwitz, because Auschwitz was possible and remains possible for the foreseeable future, light-hearted art is no longer conceivable." The impulse behind poetry is the same, I still believe, as that behind carving initials on the trunk of a tree or daubing ochre on a cave wall. Behind the search for rhymes both dark and delightful, for expressions of the sacred and the profane, is the wish to assert and share one's existence, to say, I am here. I was here and I saw this tree, heard the waters murmur, saw the moon full as the face of a god. And I want you to know what I saw, so that you who also see it may look at it anew, grow aware of my fellow existence, and so become renewed. The existence of poetry needs no treatise to justify its existence. Poetry is. But yet I cannot help but think, what is it worth? What is all of this highest form in which human thought can be expressed? What is all this poetry, these assertions of existence? What is it all worth if, in its appeals to the heart and the mind, in its appeals to the very being of those who also exist, in this its ancient sacred keening, what is it all worth if it cannot give even a moment's pause to the masters of the ongoing slaughter of the innocents we witness every day? I am here, I see the horror. I too feel the helplessness. And what I see and feel, I want to share with you so that you too may see it, so that you too may feel it, the horror and the helplessness, the slaughter, the destruction of the earth, the deepening of our paralysis. What does it matter that we are capable of the sublime and the sacred? What does it matter that I can assert my existence, that I can share my meager testimony? Thank you, people, for coming and for the audience. Yeah,
Well, thank
bit
you, Rustum.
somber.
It was incredibly powerful stuff.
Thanks.
Yeah. Um,
Deep breaths.
if we could show a round of appreciation for Rustum, I see people are doing it already, but yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for
Wow.
coming, everybody.
I yeah, I definitely need that pause myself. So this is the Q&A part of the evening where people can ask questions or make comments, observations, all of this sort of thing. Is there anyone who'd like to start us off with a comment or question? It can be about a particular poem. Anything that comes to mind. Okay. There's no rush, so okay, Megan, go for it. And Jacques, you're next.
Thanks, Rustum. I mean, you did it. You kind of you gave us this horror, and then you gave us the kind of the redemption after, and I just thought the way that you expressed the last piece that you read the prose. I mean, I think it was such a relief, I guess, but it was also so thoughtful and yeah, I just thought it was fantastic, and I was also really pleased to um, hear mother tongue again or see it. Did you have? I'm trying to think of a question apart from the fact that it was just awesome. But
Thanks,
did you
Megan.
have did you have Jeremy Cronin's poem about the
To
tongue?
learn how to speak.
Yes, there we go. It just reminded me a little bit of that.
Mm.
But it's obviously its own poem, and I thought it was, I mean, it's beautiful, and if you haven't published it already, I'm hoping you will do it soon.
Thank you, Megan. I forgot to say it has been published at the Johannesburg Review of Books. I can't really say whether Jeremy Cronin's To Learn How to Speak is behind that. I mean, um, some of it is a kind of irritation with the politics that comes out in some of the expressions around this. This idea of Afrikaans and its origins and its codification, etc. So, because I have some conservative views about language and grammar and standards and dialects. Um, but I speak only two languages. In Afrikaans, I speak a few different variants. I can vary my Afrikaans from standard to dialectal, Tsotsitaal, Afrikaans Tsotsitaal, the equivalent of Tsotsitaal, etc. And yeah, so the poem was just kind of like a celebration, sitting with my old friend, and switching into Afrikaans and switching into the Afrikaans of our childhoods, which were both formal, the Afrikaans of the classroom. For my Christian classmates, it would be the Afrikaans of church, and then the Afrikaans of the playground, and the Afrikaans of wherever everybody else in the playground were from. And it could be mixed with, words from Malayu, which came through Islam, etc. And it could be mixed with gangster lingo, etc. So all of that, but it's also, I also just want to assert a kind of Boerland Afrikaans over, a limited view of, this non-standard dialect that people are codifying. So that's the story behind that poem. I'm glad to hear that you think it works, because it can sometimes sound a little bit jarring. And then part of the inspiration behind it is also, inevitably Derek Walcott's view about Caribbean Creole and English poetry, the tensions he mined between, to use, for want of a better word, the language of the streets and, whatever metrical feet he would be using in his poetry. So yeah, so it's part of that. I mean, of course, I don't want to compare myself to Derek Walcott at all. But yeah, part of the inspiration is just, can I do something similar, with this other Germanic language that I speak? Yeah. I hope that answers some of it.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Rustum. Jacques, you're up with your question.
Rustum, first of all, apologies that I was late.
That's fine, Jacques. No problem.
I wanted to write a poem to bring to the reading. I don't know what possessed me, but it was an amazing. It's always amazing to hear you. And if I have a question, I love the conversations with other poets and musicians, always, and and the way that your work um, just reawakens my desire to read. Um, but if I have a question, there's a strong there's such a sense of urgency in your words, in spite of this awareness that that's also very strong, that poetry doesn't really change things, that it can't save lives, that it sort of makes nothing happen, as Auden said. Um, maybe my question is a practical one. How, when you, when you, when you feel that sense of helplessness, the poetry doesn't, can't change things, that language is inadequate. What helps you then? What helps you to keep on writing as you do?
Oh,
What helps?
Jacques, that is such a terrible question because I struggle. I really, really struggle, and I think many people in the audience, people who write, it's like it's actually fucking depressing,
Yes.
and it's not about the idea that poetry or writing cannot change the world out there. I mean, some of the despair is simply, how do I make this line equal in temper to the shit that's happening out there?
No.
I
Yes.
mean, and I think that, I mean, we only have words, but how do I make these words? I'm having this ongoing argument or conversation rather with someone about, non-representational art versus representational art. You know,
Mm.
let's reduce it to realism versus anti-realism or non-realism. And my thing is, we know that language cannot mirror reality. We know that. But at the same time, that is what we want to do. That
Mm.
is, that is, as a writer, I want to bring my reader or listener as close to whatever is moving me to write.
Mm.
And for me, yeah, I I would like politicians to listen to writers and poets, but I know they're not, and that makes me angry. And I want to convey that anger and that despair, you know. And sometimes the lines come out flat. The lines don't have the anger and despair that you want. And that then, makes you feel useless, makes you depressed, etc. But that, I mean, so for me, I write so little and it drives me insane because I'm just not as productive as I back in my 20s and mid 30s imagined myself, so that's another avenue of despair. Yeah, because we also, I mean, inevitably we have to talk about politics and the world, And the thing is, we like to tell ourselves, yes, progress, there's no such linear thing as progress into which societies enter and they become better and better and better as we go forward. But, and excuse my French or Tagalog or whatever, but fuck me, in my 20s and 30s, I could never have imagined that the world would turn out as it has turned out now, The world, I mean, yeah, so despair. How do you write about it? I mean, because everything, I just want to give props to another poet in South Africa, though. I think Simon van Schalkwyk's poetry, some aspects of it, how it deals with a contemporary kind of vibe, like, I mean, I find his poetry amazing in how it talks to the times, and how we can use the discourse of our time, the online culture, business discourse, but how we can turn that into poetry, I think is amazing. It's amazing. So that's what I try and do. But I mean, the world is too complex for me. And I do feel like an old man shouting at a cloud. Um, because I don't think my language is equal to the complexity of language out there, and what is happening sociologically to people, culturally to people. Yeah. So
Yeah,
despair all round, and occasionally there's a little, I don't know. But it's good to read to people because I can feel some glimmer in, what, when I write things out and I type it up and I print it out and I look at it and it's all flat and meaningless. But so it's good to hear, first of all, myself read aloud, and I need other people to be able to do that reading aloud. Um, so it's nice to sense that there's something kind of bubbling under in the lines that I can hopefully go and work on later.
but
But
I
I
mean,
mean, it's a terrible question, but it's a productive question, Jacques.
I really, I apologize. I didn't mean to ask you a terrible
No,
question
no, no, I don't mean it terrible in that
like that.
sense.
It's, what I want to say is that the way you confront that question in your work and then write through it gives me, I think, gives other people courage to keep going.
Well, thank you. I mean, I'm glad if people think that. Um, but I think that confrontation, yeah, that's another complex. Let's rather not go down that road, that confrontation with stuff,
Mhm.
because it's also an inner confrontation, isn't it?
Oh, of course.
You
Yes.
know,
Thank you.
and that's psychoanalysis.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, it is. Thank you.
No, thank you for inviting me again. Red Wheelbarrow Poetry Collective. It's
Daniel,
nice to know that it's also an ongoing platform. It's good to know that.
We'll always ask you back.
It's just a pity about the time difference because, I wish I could attend the readings of other people. Um,
There's an archive on YouTube. It's not the same, but it's something.
yeah, that's true. It's not the same. It is something, but it's not the same.
Mm.
It's missing the open mic. Which is a pity, but yeah, that's. Tsitsi, do you still have a question? Okay, go for it.
Rustum, thank you so much for your poetry.
Right,
I really enjoyed being, your student in 2018. I really think you're a very magnetic, tenacious, and tender person. And you have this brilliant gift of pouring that into your poetry. And, we can really feel it as your readers and your fans. Since I met you in 2018, you've always been into Derek Walcott. I remember you asked me to read him, and I would like to ask you, what would you want him to know about you if you ever met him? And what would you want to ask him if you ever met him? That's my question. Um, Depending on time, you can just answer one of them, but I'm very, very curious. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult because, the question is, would one want to meet Derek Walcott? Because he was not a pleasant person. He was a wife batterer, so that, yeah, that makes the question difficult to answer. I mean, I'm also always a little bit reluctant to admit my fandom for Derek Walcott because of that history. Um, and then, yeah, I mean, I guess, this would be more psychoanalysis. I imagine it would be, why Derek Walcott as a father figure, as a kind of mentor, etc. Yeah, I mean, he looks like an uncle of mine, so there's that. What would I like him to know about me? I don't know. I think, like, there's a poem of his about language, where one of the lines is come back to me, my language. And then it switches into French Creole, because he grew up on St. Lucia, where the majority language was French Creole and not English. And there's something remarkable in that, where it's just a list of words, of items, potatoes, cherries, the names of fruit, but in the French Creole, which has an amazing sonic quality, and that sonic quality fits into the rest of the poem, which is in English. And that's what I wish I could do with Afrikaans, is to make it sonically, fit in with kind of English poetics. But that's my ongoing struggle. But yeah, Derek Walcott, problematic. All your heroes are problematic. Yeah.
Thank you, Rustum. Thank you, Tsitsi, for that question. Faith, hi, you're up.
Hi. Thank you so much, Rustum. I've been eagerly awaiting to hear. I'm a big fan, and it's really lovely to hear some new words from you. So thank you so much. That was really moving.
Thank you.
I just have a question about, you mentioned Simon van Skalkwijk, and he wrote an article about this karting life called Dark Water. I don't know if you've read it.
Yeah, I've seen it, yes.
Okay, yeah. I was wondering what you think of that, and just whether, I guess, I mean, there's a lot of water in this karting life. It's kind of weaves its way throughout the collection. And I was wondering whether that was a conscious decision.
Yeah, it's interesting. No, it wasn't a conscious thing at all when I was writing the poetry. I mean, the thing is that the book, it was never written as a book. I mean, my second book also, the poems aren't written with the idea in the back of my head that this is going to form a book. So the karting life, the poetry in the karting life, is poetry taken from an archive of 10 years of poetry. So yeah, I'm as surprised and curious about the water motif apparently that runs through my poems. Someone else, another critic once pointed out to me that I like stones as well, stones and rocks, that stones and rocks come through. And I don't know. I mean, it may be because of the shadow of Seamus Heaney, because I always thought that one of his remarkable abilities is to reduce things to, what in the olden days we used to call in literary studies the elementals. It's water, stone, earth, fire, etc. So I think the stoniness probably comes from Heaney, and the water. I don't know. I don't know. It's interesting because I wish I had grown up close to the sea, in the sense that island people may have, in the Caribbean. It's also interesting because I had an uncle, one of my father's brothers, who absolutely loved fish. Okay, even if it was tinned fish, if there was fish on the table, everything was good. And I think of it as a kind of, I mean, I don't want to romanticize these ideas, but I do think of it as a kind of deep ancestral memory of the sea. If you think of the background of Islam at the Cape and slavery from the Malayan archipelago, etc., etc. Um, you know, so maybe, I don't know, maybe that's the thing. There's some deep ancestral longing to go back to the sea or something. Although I like to think of myself as a mountain person rather than a sea person. Um, So yeah, not deliberate at all.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Faith. Thank you, Rustum. Burle, you're next. Welcome back.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't have a question per se as much as a remark, just to echo Tsitsi, just to let her know that it was still Derek Walcott in 2018. I'm delighted to hear, because in the early 2000s and about sort of 2000, 2001 UCT, that was pretty much the bedrock and foundation of our poetry class, because Rustum was my lecturer as well. So it was interesting. It was wonderful to meet someone who understands that language as well. And those were phenomenal questions. Thank you. And thank you, Rustum, as always, as usual.
Thank you, Mbali. It's always good to know and to realize that one that students remember some aspects of the teaching, you know.
I think it's wonderful how, and perhaps maybe that's what I was speaking to without really realizing it. One, just the movement across generations, but I think what's startling, surprising, but maybe if I think about it, not really, but the fact that you have retained the qualities that Tsitsi mentioned, throughout the ages. It's always wonderful for me that to interact with you. I mean, I haven't seen or spoken to you in years, but you are still that man. You are still that person, and more than just remember, I think, the poetry or the lessons or what it was to have you as a lecturer. It's also to have been blessed with the witness of you as a human being, and your tongue, and how you live out your tongue in your life, and that's beautiful. I think that's beautiful, and I think it's an age of tributes as well. So I think we use these opportunities to be here, to reflect to you, who you have been, beyond yourself.
Thank you for that, Mbali. Thank you for that affirmation. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna make me cry, so
And that's why we
Um,
love you, because you're the guy who cries. You know what I mean? You're the guy who cries, and it was in your selection, as well. And your courage, how, clear-sighted and how brave you have always been, and how essential that is in our work. And so I really nodded as well when you said, I really I want politicians to read writers and poets, and absolutely. Anyway, stay well, Rustum. Thank you so much.
thank you, Mbali.
Thank you, Mbali. Thank you, Rustum. The evening is longer, getting longer than maybe some of us are expecting. But I just have a very brief question. I think, like everyone in the room, I feel you're grappling with language, with place, and with power relations, and yeah, there's always been the sense in your writing of this grappling, and I think possibly you alluded to this, or you spoke more about this in speaking about despair, and so maybe I will just leave that there and skip to the other thing that occurred to me, and that's the poem about the hair. And when I write, in a way, there's a parallel for me between those two poems, because it's like the speaker is looking at, or yeah, grappling again with something that we are outside of, in some way, or that there are limitations with language, as to what can be said here. But paradoxically, in both those poems, you take us right in there. I mean, the hair poem ends with enraptured beyond my knowing, I think is the line. But the speaker, the listener, the reader is right there with you. We are enraptured. And with the poem, when I write, it's yeah, we are also right there with the suffering and the horror of even though you have the question about what poetry is worth. There it is. That's maybe the closest one can get to it. So maybe just echoing then what Mbali was saying in some way, I think, in that there's the consistency in the voice. And it's just great to hear that. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Edward. I mean, you are all very generous. I appreciate that. I do. Thank you.
Okay, I think we've got time for one more question. Kiara, go for it.
Okay. Thank you so much, Rustum. It's a pleasure to hear you read your own work. And my favorite line, well, firstly, everything is very raw, and it hit me, and I don't have the right words to describe this reading, but thank you very much. My favorite line was "An orphan in a new house." I hope I'm not butchering it too much. In a new house senses an old taste. It's extremely vivid and extremely raw. So thank you. My question, because I did see in your bio that you live in New Zealand, and I wanted to know, how does living in a foreign country affect your writing? Because I mean, obviously you write more about your home country than anything else. But yeah, that's my question. How does living away from home affect you and your writing?
Thank you, Kiara. I mean, I've written only about, let me see, including that prose passage I read at the end, so probably just 4 or 5 pieces I've written since I've been in New Zealand. My writing has been very, very slow. I haven't written a lot. Excuse me. So it's very difficult to really address that question. you know, so first of all, I'm obviously, I don't feel comfortable yet about, you know, uh, cutting open the politics of New Zealand, which is also very interestingly parallel to South Africa's in terms of racial dynamics. On the one hand, I think New Zealand may have dealt with it better. I don't know. But there's you read the stories in the newspaper of how the police responds to different people differently, etc., etc. On the formal political stage, yeah. So, but I don't feel I know. I've only been here since February 2024, so that's just over 2 years now. So I don't feel comfortable yet in in writing about the country because I feel that's always problematic. So therefore the kind of very what do you call it, pastoral poems, poems about nature, about chickens and hares and stuff. That's one way of I mean, I have ideas about what goes on in New Zealand, but at the moment I don't feel I have the what do you call it? The chops to write about it yet. So yeah, so it's very new. I mean, before I came here, I spent 2 years in the States, and that was, I didn't write anything there. I wrote maybe a few, I attempted poems, several different ones, but it was just not. But I was living in a big city, which is very alienating in its own way. But yeah, I've met up with some poets. We meet regularly, so I'm learning a bit about the country, other than just the bureaucracy we have to deal with, and so on. Yeah, I know that's a non-answer in some ways. But I use the word chooks. I decided I'm going to use the vocabulary. So chooks in New Zealand. There's a word, interestingly enough, there's a word graunching, which I thought was peculiar to New Zealand. And it kind of describes the kinds of things that happen, so like a digger, a mechanical digger digging at the ground and rock and earth. That's what graunching means in New Zealand. And then I looked it up in the dictionary, and it has a South African meaning as well, which has to do with how do I like I only have the Afrikaans word for it. It's like when people fray, when people are necking and hugging and kissing and petting, etc. To graunch someone is to, get up close with them in South Africa. So it's an interesting ambiguity in that word. But yeah, so vocabulary, but even vocabulary, the poets. So in New Zealand in general, there's the big historical split, is between white and Maori, obviously, and white people use the Maori word pakea or Pākehā to refer to themselves. Okay, so there's a lot of resistance to incorporating Maori as a language into official documentation, but it does happen. Almost every sign, is in English and in Maori. Road signs, bureaucratic forms, all of that. But there is resistance to it. But then there's also, many white New Zealanders have kind of absorbed a very broad vocabulary of Maori vocabulary. So it's sometimes difficult when I read poetry. There's, I don't know what's going on because of it will be in English, but 10 to 15% of the vocabulary would be Maori. And that's difficult as an outsider, obviously. But what I found curious is there's different levels in which Pākehā people will use Maori in their English. So I'm also very nervous about just using vocabulary in my poetry because there's nothing worse than a foreigner coming into your country and pretending that they know the country and they can throw the words around. So there obviously parallels of that to South Africa. I don't know. I understand you are in Argentina. I don't know whether there's a similar linguistic thing between Native American languages and Spanish.
Firstly, that was such a generous answer. Thank you. I totally understand everything that you're saying because I could say as well, there's so many parallels to what you're experiencing and what I experience here in Argentina. I've been here for almost a year. Tomorrow will be my 1 year anniversary. So it's also very new for me. But I think the thing that strikes you first is racial segregation, and it's very obvious here as well. More than I think South Africa or New Zealand, because um, um, the segregation was allowed, and Black people were almost I don't know I can't find the word now. They just washed out the Black people, especially because they were welcomed in other South American countries. And in terms of language, here I like that they chop up Spanish. I say chop up, I mean like they change the words and they replace certain words with other phrases that are not known in Spain or other Spanish-speaking countries. Um, I have heard a few native words, and I met a poet through Red Wheelbarrow who lives here. He's South African, and he's learning the native language. And it is very different and unique, but not many people know the language at all. Certainly not the people that I have met. But yeah, it's quite an experience immigrating, and I'm very grateful to have heard your experience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kiara. Thank you, Rustum. Once again, so much for taking the time, and yeah, it was really inspiring to hear you. And yeah, we will invite you again for sure.
Thank you, Edward. Yes, thank you for that. I think I'm gonna stick around for some of the open mic if but I may disappear depending on what the time is, etc.
All good. As I
That's
said,
fine.
it's a non-issue. Thank you.
Okay.